The greatest moment at Veterans Stadium took place on October 21st, 1980. Prior to the '80 season, the Philadelphia Phillies had the hardest luck of all the original 16 Major League franchises. Since the World Series officially began in 1903, no team had lost more games than the Phils. From 1903 to 1975, they had only 23 seasons with a .500 or better record, and had finished above the second division only 20 times. In those years, they would reach the World Series on 2 occasions, once in 1915 and the other time in 1950, but would lose both of them to the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. Then in 1964, they had assembled an excellent ball club led by manager Gene Mauch, and it looked like they were going to win their third National League pennant, as they had a 6.5 game lead with 12 remaining. But they ended up losing 10 straight, and despite winning their last 2 games, the pennant would go to the St. Louis Cardinals. However, by 1976, the Phillies had assembled another excellent team, led by Mike Schmidt and Steve Carlton, and won a franchise record 101 games to win their division, but they would be swept by the Cincinnati Reds in the playoffs. They would win their division for the next 2 seasons, but on both occasions, they lost in the playoffs to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Then in 1980, they won another division title and would defeat the Houston Astros in an epic 5-game playoff series to return to the Fall Classic for the first time in 30 years. Their opponent was the Kansas City Royals, who were playing in their 12th season and were led by American League MVP George Brett. The Royals had come into their own as one of baseball's elite clubs, having won their 4th division title in 5 years, and their first American League pennant. This also marked the first World Series matchup since 1920, in which neither participating team had won a world championship to that point, and this series would be one for the ages. Going into Game 6, every game had a late-inning drama, with 3 of them being decided after the 7th. The Phillies won the first 2 games in Philadelphia, highlighted in Game 2 by Bake McBride's game-winning double in the 8th. But after shifting to Kansas City, things would turn in the Royals' favor as they won a dramatic Game 3 on a walk-off single by Willie Aikens in the 10th, and would even up the set in Game 4. Then in Game 5, with a chance to take a series lead, Kansas City went into the 9th ahead 3-2, but the Phillies would rally on hits by Del Unser and Manny Trillo to go up 4-3. The Royals loaded the bases in the bottom half, but closer Tug McGraw would strike out Jose Cardenal to end the game and send the series back to Philadelphia, with the Phillies 1 win from the title. Starting Game 6 was Rich Gale for the Royals, while Game 2 winner Steve Carlton started for Philadelphia. Lefty held the Royals scoreless for the first 3 innings. In the bottom of the 3rd, the Phillies mounted a threat. After loading the bases with nobody out, Mike Schmidt came to the plate and delivered a single to right to put the Phils up 2-0. Carlton held the Royals scoreless for the next 2 innings. In the bottom of the 5th, the Phillies would add an insurance run. They tacked on another run in the 6th to take a 4-0 lead, and with the way Carlton was pitching, it looked like the Phillies' long wait for a title was finally coming to a close. But in the top of the 8th, the Royals would finally break loose. John Wathan led off with a walk, and after a single by Jose Cardenal chased lefty, Tug McGraw came in to try to get the final 6 outs. His first hitter was Frank White, who he retired on a foul pop, but he would walk Willie Wilson to load the bases and bring up U.L. Washington as the tying run. Washington would hit a sac fly to make the score 4-1, and it looked like McGraw was going to get out of the inning, but George Brett singled to load the bases, and Hal McRae came up as the potential go-ahead run. McGraw got to a full count, but would make the crowd breathe easy when he retired McRae on a ground ball to get out of the jam, and the Phillies were now 3 outs from the title. After the Phils were retired in order in the bottom half, Amos Otis led off the top half of the 9th. Otis would work the count to 2-2, but McGraw would strike him out looking. Willie Aikens came up next and worked the count full, and on the 7th pitch of that bat, McGraw walked him to bring up John Wathen. Wathen would single to right to put runners on first and second, and the crowd that minutes before was roaring with excitement was now on the edge of their seat as the Royals, for the second straight inning, brought the tying run to the plate. Cardinal was the next hitter and would add to the tension when he lined a single to center to load the bases. But what happened next would be a play that no one saw coming, that became the defining moment of the series. Frank White came up and on the first pitch hit a routine pop-up behind the first base line that catcher Bob Boone camped under. It appeared to be an easy second out, but the ball would pop out of Boone's glove. However, first baseman Pete Rose happened to be standing next to Boone and would catch the ball before it could hit the ground. With 2 outs, the Royals' last hope was Willie Wilson. McGraw would get the count to 1 ball and 2 strikes. With a crowd of 66,838 on their feet ready to erupt, Wilson would strike out swinging for out number 3, and the Phillies' long wait for a world championship was finally over. McGraw raised his arms into the air, and the entire Philly team ran onto the field to celebrate, as the team that could never win a World Series had finally won it. The Phillies contended again in '81, but would lose the division title to the Montreal Expos, and after winning another National League pennant in '83, they'd only make one more postseason appearance until 2007, when they completed a remarkable comeback to win the National League East, and a year later would win their first World Series since their miracle season of 1980.